the Dream 100 Show. The epicenter of influence, collaboration, and exponential growth. You're about to discover the power of relationships. Dream 100 relationships. And you're one relationship away from a totally different business and life. This is your host, Michael Tesner.
So I just got back from a week-and-a-half trip to Disney and all the fun parks there, as well as Universal Studios. And it was interesting this time because I always like to unplug mentally as much as I can, and I definitely worked probably the least amount that I have during a vacation or a trip. I wasn't able to unplug 100%, but for the most part, I was largely able to unplug. But there was something a little bit different on this trip, and I found myself, as I was wandering the resorts, as I was wandering the theme parks, pausing and doing a lot more people watching and just generally observing emotions and even some casual conversations. And what was interesting to me is that this whole talking point mantra around brand is really starting to be more at the focal point of where my mind has been going. Now, yes, I'm thinking about AI, and I'm thinking about the economy, and I'm trying to predict things, and there's all of that, and none of that I would call noise. But I always like to look at, is there one thing that you can really sink some time, some money, some knowledge, some growth into that can pay off dividends far beyond anything else? And it finally hit me that the reason that these theme parks are so successful is their brand and then their sub-brands. So if we look at Universal Studios, for example, you've got the Universal Studios brand, you've got the Islands of Adventure brand, and you've got their Epic theme park, which I have yet to go to, unfortunately. So hopefully the next trip I'll be able to go. So you've got those as like the overarching. But where I want you to focus and think a little bit more is all these sub-brands. So for example, you've got the E.T. ride in brand. You've got Seuss Land, so the Dr. Seuss brand that they own. You've got Jurassic Park. You have Marvel. You have Looney Tunes. So like Betty Boop, for example, who was wandering around. You've obviously got the gigantic Harry Potter brand. So all of these different brands then make up the Universal brand. But they're all contributing in their own unique way. And what I found to be very interesting on this trip is that as I was walking and then pausing and looking around, and as I said, observing some conversations, people would resonate with a certain brand. So the easy one that people resonate with is Harry Potter. And I don't want to pretend that I know all about Harry Potter because I do not. My wife and kids know all about Harry Potter. I have not watched all the movies just yet. But it was interesting because people would walk into Diagon Alley, and many of them that were seeing it for the first time would start crying. They would gasp. They would just be overcome with different types of emotions. Many people were dressed up in the Harry Potter attire, and they had, Gryffindor or Hufflepuff shirts, for example, backpacks with that brand. Like they immersed themselves and were emotionally connected to, and I would argue emotionally invested in, so we're going to come back to that phrase, the brand. But then I would see the same thing all throughout the other lands, where some people that were in the Dr. Seuss land would be overjoyed or overcome with emotions and taking all these pictures next to the sign for Seuss Landing and taking a picture of every little detail. They would go to all the characters that were in Seuss Land and get their autographs, and a lot of people were dressed up that would fit that particular land. And then the same thing with Marvel. And I noticed the exact same thing at all of the different Disney parks. At Hollywood Studios, for example, Star Wars is their big brand. And people were dressed up and carrying lightsabers and really going all out and being just so connected to that brand. But I saw the exact same emotions. People crying, people just talking about how amazing it is to finally be here, to see certain things. Now, yes, there's the chaos of the theme parks, and this was spring break, so it was busy, and the weather wasn't amazing, at least the first week or so. But that didn't necessarily crush any of this brand emotion that I was seeing from people. Now, what it also allows these theme parks to do is to capitalize on all the merchandise of every single brand. So you would go on a ride, you'd get off the ride, and then there's merchandise. Obviously, in the galactic land of Star Wars, you could build these very expensive lightsabers, which my son has one of. This past trip they built, and I believe they're called the droids. I hope that's the right phrase. They built those. And then every other world, like you go on a Dr. Seuss ride, you come out, and then there's Thing 1, Thing 2 shirts and all the Dr. Seuss stuff. So every single one of those entities had its brand, and it had its ways to make connections. Now, again, what's interesting is that this translates to the other theme parks. But I could also tell you that if you were to throw another theme park in the mix, like Six Flags, they've got that brand, but they don't have a bunch of sub-brands. They haven't built any of that additional brand equity to tell the stories. So when I look back and say, well, okay, well, Michael, what are you getting at here? And I promise this will come full circle, is that every one of these brands allows them to tell different stories. Different stories on the rides, different stories with the merchandise, different stories in the advertising. It allows them to build certain client avatars that they can target certain ads with people that they know love Dr. Seuss and use that as a hook to get you in. You might not love Harry Potter, but if you love Dr. Seuss, they're going to get you there through Dr. Seuss or Harry Potter. For me, the brand that I most relate to is at Magic Kingdom, and it's the Cinderella Castle, and in particular, it's the experience around the fireworks and the different shows at night that are on the castle. For me, that teleports me to just a completely different place. It's emotions that I really can't describe. In that 20 minutes or so, it's as if nothing else matters around me. Like I'm so in sync with what was being presented. It's almost like movies that transport you and you feel like you're in the movie, you're in it. And as I look around, people were crying with tears. Crying with tears. So how does this relate to you? You don't have, nor do I have, Disney money or Universal money. To me, it goes back to, and I've only talked about it once or twice, but the power of brand. And I think this power of brand is something that's often getting overlooked. I think it's often getting rushed. And to me, the brand starts all the way back at the beginning with your name. And if you just slapped up something without any meaning or any thought to it, you just ABC landscaping because you think that that's the right thing to do, or Buffalo landscaping, okay, fine, that tells what you do, Buffalo landscaping. So some of these are going to be a little bit harder. I mean, you don't have necessarily that whole big piece around it from a brand perspective. But what I want you to think about today is, could you build in a mascot, a character, something that allows you to tell a bit more of a story? And I've been studying mascots and characters in marketing for the last couple of years. And in every case that I've seen, kind of before and afters, there's always a lift in revenue as well as a lift in connection. So if you study the home services industry, some of the best home services brands have a mascot. Think the Jolly Green Giant, for example. That's not home services necessarily. The Lonely Maytag Repairman. There's a local business, Frank's Mr. Plumber, and they've got the Frank's mascot. And they build the brand around these, which allows you to start to make connections to that particular brand. And it's interesting because you can ask people, like, you can show pictures like the Disney Arch, and people, oh, I know that's, I completely messed that up. Not the Disney Arch, the McDonald's Arch. You could show the Disney Castle, and they would relate to that. But being able to just show an image and then all of a sudden having that connection is really, really powerful. So if I were sitting in your shoes today and knowing everything that I know now, I would want you to relook at the name of your business to make sure that it's something that you, again, can trademark, something that you can protect. I need you to own it. I don't want someone else to be able to come and take it. And then from there, it's how much time and energy and money have you invested in the branding side of things? Have you really thought through the strategic colors? Have you put down your core story? Do you have a mascot? Do you have a jingle, a tagline? All of these things help with the brand recall, but you being able to tell a story. How can you tell a fun story? How can you then make merch, or really what I would call swag, that you can then give away? So yeah, let's say you're Buffalo landscaping. Well, maybe you've got Billy the Buffalo as your mascot. And it literally is just the buffalo, but you have that in your advertising. You have that on your website. You give a new customer a little Billy the Buffalo, and he's got a shirt on over the buffalo, and it says, whatever, keeping your, I'm not going to come up with anything creative on the spot, but whatever, keeping your lawn is good enough for buffaloes, or I don't know, something like that. But you've got something unique on that shirt. Billy the Buffalo, Buffalo Landscaping. It's that brand recall. And then what you're able to do with that is the community events, the sponsoring of t-shirts, the radio commercials. Billy the Buffalo wants you to go check out Buffalo Landscaping before they're booked up for the entire season. Running ads on streaming platforms, potentially local TV, newspapers, back of bulletins. A lot of these churches are still doing bulletins. You can buy a slot for $50, for example. All of that stuff ties into brand and that omnipresence effect, but it goes to the core of brand. So what I want you to think about today, and really over the next couple of weeks, is what can you improve from your brand standpoint? And that might mean a complete redesign. It might mean adding a mascot or character. We have one at my different agencies. Actually, we have multiple mascots. We send them as stuffed animals then to new clients, and it's just something fun and something different. You need to stand out from what everyone else is doing. But all this stuff, again, ties into the story aspect because it gives you the ability to tell stories rather than just talk about your product or service. You can give the story element. You can take them through the story. You can show them how they're the hero in the story, that you're the guide. But without brand, without mascots, without being strategic about this, you're just another landscaping company. You're just another e-commerce company selling something. The brands that invest in brand equity and start to stand out, those are the ones that will survive this AI apocalypse that has been coming and will continue to come. Because customers are going to want to do business with brands they know, like, and trust. And it's much easier for you to gain that trust when you've got a brand and you've got a story to go with it. Do not sleep on brand. Start making some tweaks, some improvements over the next couple of weeks so that you can stand the test of time. Appreciate you listening to today's episode of the Dream 100 Show. Tune in next week. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. See ya.